Hello everybody. I am going to try something new. I am going to spatchcock a chicken. I am going to use my smoky applewood seasoning to make it kind of like a barbecue chicken. So I'm gonna spatchcock it, which basically means I'm gonna cut out the backbone and then spread it. So flip it over and spread it. You'll see it when I get this done. And then I'm gonna tie the legs and tuck the wings. And then I'm going to use the backbone and some of the giblets to make a roasted gravy without having to wait for the chicken to cook. And then what I'm going to do is I am going to basically broil it in the oven in the cast iron at a high heat. So it's going to give it almost like a barbecue chicken flavor of it in the oven. So I've got my giblets in the pot, and then I'll show you this really awesome way to get great gravy without having to wait for the chicken to get done. And I brined my whole chicken in a sugar, salt, and pepper water for about an hour. If you can do it longer, that's a good way to do it. And now I'm gonna try to make sure it's as dry as I rinsed it, and I'm gonna make sure it's as dry as it can get. So now I'm gonna turn it over for the backbone. And I'm going to use my kitchen shears. So you want a pair of shears that are pretty sharp because I'm going to cut through on the side of this backbone. So I'm going to start on this side just because it's a little easier to kind of see where it is. And then I'm really just going to start clipping, and I'm going to go through those bones right along this backbone. I'm going to take this side. You see these scissors are going right through it. And go all the way here. But don't let it intimidate you, right? Let's get a good grip, right? A little clip. Get it? See? Right there. So now I'm going to finish it off on this side. I love these shears. So now I'm going to take this backbone and I'm just going to throw it in my pot with my giblets. So now I have this chicken that is spread open, and I'm going to trim off some of this extra fat, and I'm going to throw that in with my pot to help make the gravy. All right. So you can kind of see how it's like this. All right. So now I'm gonna flip this over, and you basically just make sure it can lay flat, right? So I'm gonna dry it. Again, make sure it's nice and dry. And now to get that extra crispy skin, I'm gonna take my paring knife and I'm gonna kind of poke holes in the skin. And what this will do is it'll help that oil and seasoning get in there and really make it a crispy skin. And since I brined the meat, it's gonna be nice and juicy. And now what I did is I took my smoky applewood seasoning and I mixed it with olive oil to make a paste. And so I'm gonna take this paste. Oh, it smells good. And it's gonna give it that barbecue kind of chicken seasoning. And I'm gonna make sure it gets all over this chicken. I love using my half sheet pan just because I know stuff aren't going to drip everywhere. Get this all over here. Make sure I can get some here on the inside. We're gonna tie the legs together. I'm gonna tie these like this. So now I have this. I think this is what they say is do these little wing tips right up in there, like that. There we go. Okay, so now I have this great chicken. I'm gonna use my 12-inch cast iron. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna heat my cast iron with a little bit of oil until it's smoking. And then I'm gonna stick it into the oven on broil, but about 12 to 13 inches from the element. And I'm not gonna turn that on, I'm gonna do a cold oven. So the bottom of the chicken is gonna be on the hot iron skillet. And then when I stick it in the oven, it'll start to heat from the broiler on the inside. So I have my 12-inch cast iron, and I've got it almost on medium-high heat because I wanna get this pan really hot. What I love about the Pampered Chef cast irons is you'll notice that it's side handles. It's not one big long handle. And it's interesting because this recipe talked about having to turn the cast iron in the oven and switch it from side to side in the oven to cook evenly because you have that big handle on the way. With this one, I'm not gonna have to worry about that. This one fits on a grill, right? Depending on the size of your grill, so you don't have to worry about the handle. I just think it becomes so much more versatile because of the way it's designed, as well as being a lot easier to handle because it's heavy. I'm not having to try to manage it with a handle. So it's getting really hot. I can start to see kind of the shimmer there. I want to make sure when you're cooking with cast iron, you should heat it first. And then when you put in your oil, you can kind of see it roll really quickly. See how that rolls and shimmers? That tells me that it's really nice, and I can see it start to smoke. So that's perfect. So I am going to take my chicken. It looks beautiful, by the way. And I am just going to try to keep these wings tucked up in there while I do it. And I'm going to take this and put it right in the iron skillet. And this is about a 6-pound chicken, right? So I'm going to, and I'm going to transfer this to the oven. I'm going to use my mini mitts. And I'm going to put this in the oven. And I am going to put it on broil and let it cook for about 25 minutes. Then I'll probably just turn it all the way around for another 20. Cover it up like I need to, just like you would in the grill if it's getting too burnt. But see, it's cooking it from underneath now, and it's going to make sure all of it's done evenly. And I'm going to have this done in about an hour. So we'll show you what's going on in the meantime. Okay, so now we're going to start our gravy. And this is going to be done with that backbone and the neck bone and the giblets that came in with it. Usually when you think about giblet gravy, you're boiling down a lot of water. In this method, we're going to start with just like 1 cup, and we're going to simmer this, right? I'm going to just take this one, let it simmer, and it's going to boil down with some of the giblets and almost start searing a little bit. So it's really going to concentrate some of those flavors. And then I'll show you the next step. Okay, so that 1 cup of broth has kind of simmered down until we get this sizzle, right? This dark thing. So I'm going to stir it just to keep getting this nice deep thing down here on the, the stuff that's going to really help with that seasoning. This is usually what happens in a roasted pot, right? You get this great roasted part of that chicken that's in there that gives it all the flavor. Okay, so now I have my aromatics. I have celery, shallot, carrots, I got some fresh parsley, I got some thyme, and some garlic. So you guys probably know this, I did this all with my chopper. So I'm going to put this in with that. I'm going to stir it around for another 10 minutes till the onions are really translucent. Throw in a little bit of white wine and the rest of the stock. Okay, so I have this great browning in here, and I know this isn't the perfect angle for you guys. You can see I have this nice brown things from the aromatics, right? And now what I'm going to do is I don't have dry white wine, but I do have some dry vermouth. So I'm going to add in a quarter cup of dry vermouth. That's going to help deglaze this pan, right? It's going to get that nice, it starts getting a little thick. You can kind of see, even with my plastic scraper, that'll kind of help take all that really nice browned stock and the stuff from the giblets and the aromatics. And I get that all mixed up in there. And then I'm going to add in my extra 3 cups of broth. So now I'm going to leave this on medium and let this come to a simmer. I'm going to keep going and let that broth get all that nice brown stuff. And look how rich this already looks. So while the chicken is continuing to cook, this will simmer. And then when I get the chicken out to rest for about 15 minutes, I will strain this stuff out, so I'll get the nice broth into a bowl. Then I'll use the same pot. I'll make a roux and add the broth back in, and we're going to have this delicious gravy to go with that barbecue chicken. Yeah, I've got this beautiful stock that I strained all those giblets, and it's kind of thick anyway because it's really reduced down all that great stuff. So now I have the same pot that I did the stock in. I'm gonna move you guys a little closer here. There we go. And I'm gonna melt 2 tablespoons of butter. So now I'm gonna make my roux. And you can see the beautiful chicken over here resting. I just took it out of the oven. It looks beautiful. So I've got this on about medium high, a little over medium heat. And get that butter melted. It's still got some of that nice goodness in here. I always like when I can use the same pot. And I'm going to want to make sure I get this roux nice and a nice deep brown, right? I don't want it burnt, but I want to have it, I want to get the butter and the rawness of the flour taste out of there. Okay, throw. And this is just 2 tablespoons, so a little bit of butter, a little bit of flour, because again, that stock is nice and thick the way it is. And this is a pretty big pan that I did this in. Just to make sure. Get that out. It shouldn't take long because it's a nice big flat bottom. And the secret is to make sure you continue to stir it so it doesn't burn. You can also tell when it gets right because you can smell it. It almost has like a nutty smell to it when it gets to the right place. So what I'm going to do, once this is ready, I'm going to pour in the stock from our, what I'll call stovetop roasted giblets. And then once that's incorporated, I'm going to take my chicken and put it on a cutting board. I'm going to pour the juices from that into a bowl and let the fat separate a little. Take that fat off the top, and then I can pour those roasted chicken juices into the gravy as well. I'm going to taste it first, but since I used a barbecue rub, I don't want the gravy to be like a barbecue sauce, but it'll definitely give it a nice, more of a barbecue flavor to the gravy. And you can start to see the color change. It usually starts to happen pretty quickly. You start to smell it. Again, you don't want it to burn on the bottom. So this is getting pretty close. You might be hard to see on the camera, but I can kind of see that brownish. See how it's starting to get golden brown? You can smell it. So now I'm going to pour in this juice. Now if you're making like a creamed gravy, you're going to want to make sure after you get this piece done that you take it off the heat to add the milk. That'll help make sure you don't get any lumps in it. So now this should thicken up pretty quickly. So I will do this. I will taste the drippings from the other chicken, see how much to add, and then I'll add some more salt and pepper to taste. So now we have gravy, that deep stock already ready. And I don't even have to add the drippings if I didn't want to, right? But I have that all done while the chicken is cooking and resting.